Hello, Cancer. Welcome to your July 2026 horoscope. During most of July, Mercury will be in retrograde in Cancer. And if you've watched my Mercury retrograde video that I posted recently, you'll know that the main theme of this retrograde is the reemergence of childhood strategies, childhood survival strategies. Sorts of patterns that are kind of instilled in you at a very, very young age, probably so young that you barely even remember, if at all, that turn into patterns that later in life start to actually become problems. These things were meant to protect you in the beginning, but then they kind of continue on with that, like in the background, in the subconscious. And for you, I think one of the things that has resulted from this particular pattern, which we'll describe a little more, is it may have led you to be a little bit of maybe a workaholic. um, there's an intense need for financial independence here with this Mercury retrograde and Jupiter in the second house, and we look at all the aspects that are being made here. And it's related to this sort of like wound where perhaps at some point in your life early on, either you or someone maybe a parent, cancer tends to do with mothers. So, maybe, I'm not saying for sure, but maybe there's a point where maybe your mother was entangled with someone else financially to a large degree, to the point that that person then had too much power over that person, and so they were able to kind of use that relationship in an abusive or harsh way to kind of, or a manipulative way. And witnessing this or having this happen to you created this sort of survival mechanism that makes it so that you absolutely must be completely financially independent so that this never happens to you. And financial independence is good. However, it seems like this may have gotten a little bit out of control, and now if you do find yourself in a situation where you might need help, then you don't want to accept it. There's a difficulty in accepting help from anyone else. And you could be in a situation, some of you, where maybe you might need a little bit of help, like this eighth house, Pluto in the eighth house, learning to kind of accept help from others. Um, let's see here. And with the North Node in the ninth house up here, this situation that you may run into during this month is meant to give you a higher perspective on this sort of core wound and help you to sort of let go and open up to the possibility of being supported by others, without getting so far into it that you're able to be manipulated or mistreated. And not getting so entangled in someone else's help that you now kind of have to do whatever they want, or else some problem's going to happen, or they're going to, I've seen relationships where one person has all the money and the other person feels like they don't really have any power at all in the relationship, because if they upset the other person, or if they speak up about it or anything like that, then they'll just use their financial control to sort of, you know what I mean, like. So I have seen that happen before, but I think that with this particular sort of setup, I don't really see that happening to you. You're already on guard about that. There's no way that you're going to allow yourself to get that deeply entangled with someone else, become dependent upon someone else in that way. But being able to accept help from friends, or if you need a loan or anything of that nature, that can be, you may find that you come across a situation where you're going to have to either repeat the old cycle of pushing away help even though you need it, or kind of put yourself in the uncomfortable position of learning to being able to accept it. And when it comes to your friends and stuff, so you have Venus and Leo in the third house, making some positive aspects up there to the 10th or the 11th house, sorry, with Saturn and these two asteroids up here. We have Pallas and Vesta. You probably have some very unique friends, who you've probably known for quite a long time. You probably have a friend circle that's very close. You've known some of these people for a very long time. They may be aware of the particular issues that we are talking about. Um, but it's like maybe they almost know better than to try to offer you too much help when you're having a hard time. You with the sun in the first house in Cancer here right now. Oh, happy birthday, by the way. Um, there's a strong desire to appear independent. In first impression type situations, when you meet people, there's just a very strong emphasis on being as independent as you possibly can, which isn't a bad thing in general. It's just maybe has been taken too far to the extreme, to where it maybe puts you in a position where you reject help when you need it, or maybe even just puts just too much pressure on you alone to make sure that you can handle absolutely everything. And then if you find yourself in a position where you need others, there's some pretty, it makes you feel real bad. Like it kind of really triggers, it's not just a principle thing, it's like it triggers an old traumatic wound from a very long time ago. There's like a ball of undigested energy stored up in your nervous system that gets triggered by situations where there's any potential for someone else to kind of hold any sort of power over you. Um, so even if it's somebody you trust and you know would never do that to you, it doesn't really matter. It's not about what's logical or uh, appears to be true. It's just a feeling. These are unconscious feelings, and logic doesn't always have anything to do with it. Um, but ultimately, I mean, healing happens when these situations come up, and you do not allow the feelings to drive your actions. When that intense feeling comes up in you, and you don't let it push you to do the thing that you typically would normally do, and you just sit with it and watch it, and just don't let it drive you, and wait till the sort of reaction starts to slow down and calm down, which can take a little while. Sometimes you have to cry before it'll actually come out. That energy's got to come out somehow. Um, but if you do find yourself in a situation like that, I would say at least take some time before just outright rejecting support or help from someone on principle or because it makes you feel nervous. Um, Anyways, where are we at here? How much time? Only 6 minutes? Jeez. Okay, maybe we should go a little farther. I did a reading for a therapist once, and they told me that I was able to tell them things in 10, 15 minutes that took their therapist 10 years to get out of them. Um, Anyways, so what else are we going to get into? So Neptune in the 10th house here, I mean, this describes something I've seen in cancers many times where you do not let on, like clearly when you are upset or struggling or having problems. The people kind of looking at you from a distance would have no idea if you're struggling or having a hard time in any way. But people who are closer to you can kind of see it in your face when you start to get kind of frustrated or if you're having a hard time. But with this Neptune in the 10th house, I would say that people at work have no idea like what's really going on inside you. You were able to kind of keep people from really recognizing, which also might be related to this idea of like there's just a strong sense of needing to protect yourself from anybody recognizing that you might need help in some way and using that against you. So I don't know what may have happened in the past, but that is something that I think the universe is kind of forcing you to look at right now. Um, Anyways, I think we're going to go ahead and just stop here. So if you'd like to get into a private reading, my website's down in the description below. You can find all my services there. Please hit the like and subscribe button and leave comments. It helps me out a lot. And until next time, take care.